Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 4th, 2013 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It is my privilege to call this meeting to order. There are copies of our agenda on either side of the room. If you haven't already availed yourself of the opportunity to do so, please pick up a copy, and I would invite you to follow along with our proceedings tonight. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to items that are on our agenda tonight, as well as a segment that we call Comments of a General Nature. That'll be item 4, so stay tuned for that. It is customary for us to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, so at this point in time I would ask that everyone please rise and join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask our fine village clerk, April Holden, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Rankin?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Commissioner Newstead?
Here.
Commissioner Durkin?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3, minutes of council meetings. We have one set of minutes to approve from our May 21st, 2013 regular council meeting. Have all members of the council had an opportunity to review those minutes? And assuming so, are there any changes, corrections, comments, questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Those minutes are passed. Terrific. All right. Well, before we get to the much anticipated item 4, questions of a general nature with respect to matters not appearing on our agenda tonight, I have several proclamations to read. But I'm going to start out with one in particular because we have some very, very special guests here tonight. We are in the presence of state greatness here in Illinois. Unless you've been living on Mars, you must have heard, I mean, my goodness, you had to hear the horns honking as they paraded down Main Street coming back from victory. The Downers Grove South boys volleyball team took state championship in Illinois. State champs. That is an outstanding accomplishment. We couldn't be more proud of Downers Grove South and everything that they did. And we are honored tonight to have most, if not the entire team here in the audience. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to read this proclamation, and I'm going to ask all you guys to step up here because we are on TV, and we've got to get you on TV. I mean, everybody's all dressed up, and they're shaved, and they're clean, so we'll get you on television. We'll take a few pictures. And then we're going to invite up a spokesperson to tell us a little bit about what it was like and how you got to that tremendous accomplishment. But know that all of Downers Grove is very proud of this accomplishment, and congratulations. So without further ado, here is the proclamation. Whereas on Saturday 1st, that doesn't make any sense, take 2. Whereas on Saturday, June 1st, 2013, the Downers Grove South High Mustangs won their first state volleyball championship at Hoffman Estates High School. And whereas South High started the season 3-5, was never ranked during the regular season, and was the lowest seed heading into Friday's quarterfinal matchup. That was some pretty good psychology there. You really got them, really psyched them out, didn't you? Whereas the Mustangs dug, blocked, and hit their way to their first state title, and whereas Downer South reached the state championship match with a straight games win over St. Charles North in the semifinal earlier in that day, and whereas the Mustangs defeated Lincoln Way North by a score of 25-18 and 25-20 in the championship game, and whereas the Mustangs head coach is Kurt Sterer and assistant coach is Chris Toth. Now therefore, I, Martin T. Tully, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby congratulate the Mustangs and proclaim Tuesday, June 4th, 2013 as Downers Grove South High Mustang Volleyball Day in the Village of Downers Grove. So come on up here, guys. Thank you. All right, let me give this to you. Congratulations. Well done.
meet you.
All right, hey, you know, play your cards right, there might be a parade.
Oh, I like that.
All right, a couple of pictures of the state champs here today, and let's give them one more big round of applause. Congratulations. All right, thanks guys, and we have a spokesperson, sometimes known as a spokesmodel. Spokesmodel is going to come up to the podium so the folks at home can hear you. Please give us your name and address. We obviously know where you go to school.
Okay, well, I'm David DeMarco, and do you really want me to say my address?
Protocol.
You know, they're all equal in the eyes of the law.
Well, I'm David DeMarco. I'm a senior captain for the Downer South boys team, and I don't know, this state run has been absolutely fantastic for everyone involved, not just on our team, but the whole program. We had tremendous fan support throughout the entire state run, from the JV team to the freshman team to also the Downers Grove South superfans, and even some of Downers North players showed up to watch us. So it was a great community-wide coming together to help us go win a state title, the first since I've been at Downers Grove South that I've seen. So.
Well, that's terrific, David. Congratulations. And I know you faced some really stiff competition, but here, tell me, champ, was there a defining moment in the match or in the run-up to the state championship that really turned the corner for you guys?
Wow. I don't know. I guess the sectional championship was kind of everybody's highlight. Nobody really thought we were going to be able to do that. We hadn't had one of those since 2007, so that was kind of everybody's highlight, and the championship was kind of icing on the cake. So.
Well, terrific. Once again, congratulations. I can see that Commissioner Durkin here is beaming with pride as a Downers Grove South alum, as well as Commissioner Olson. So Commissioner Neustadt and I will have to wait for a DGN championship sometime next year, perhaps. But congratulations, guys. I went to Downers Grove North, but I had the good sense to marry a Mustang. So I got you covered. Thank you. Well, thanks for coming out and enjoy your summer, as it's well deserved. And I meant it about that parade. We'll have to see if we can get you guys in the Independence Day parade if you're still around this summer.
Yeah, I like that.
I just have one thing. I'm just grateful to see it wasn't a Naperville school you had to get past. Because when I was there in the late 80s, we could never get past Naperville. So for you guys to do what you did is a huge accomplishment, to be extremely proud of yourselves, because as you all know, going to school and graduating from there, if you haven't already, state championships are very hard to come by, and to be able to be on that team is stories you'll be able to tell many generations from now. So again, congratulations.
Terrific. Other comments? Go on, fellow Mustang, get us say
Oh,
something.
absolutely. Well, I've already congratulated these guys on Sunday morning. Again, congratulations. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, and made us all proud, especially DGS alums, but also the entire community. So thanks for all your efforts. For those of you returning, we're expecting big things next year.
No pressure, no pressure. Thanks again, guys. Congratulations, and Downers Grove is very proud of you. Thank you. All right, but wait, there's more. Two more proclamations.
No, you guys are good.
Proclamation number 2. Whereas 2013 marks the sesquicentennial celebration of the founding of the Faith United Methodist Church, and whereas in 1863 a group of settlers in Downers Grove area met in the local homes to hear the word of the Lord, and whereas in 1879 St. Paul Society of the Evangelical Association of North America was formally established for the purpose of religious worship in Downers Grove, and whereas the church met in their first building, which was remodeled in 1883 on West Maple Avenue, and whereas on October 23rd, 1910, the congregation moved to a new building at Maple in Maine, and whereas on October 24th, 1958, the church changed its name to Faith Evangelical United Brethren Church, and whereas on May 1st, 1960, the church broke ground on a new church building at the corner of Fairview and 59th Street in Downers Grove. And whereas on February 19th, 1961, the church dedicated its beautiful new building at the corner of Fairview and 59th Street to the glory of God. And whereas in April of 1968, a union was formed between the Evangelical United Brethren Church and the Methodist Church, thus changing the church's name to Faith United Methodist Church. And whereas on November 20th, 1983, the church expanded its building, nearly doubling its size. Whereas Faith United Methodist Church is one of the oldest churches in Downers Grove and has continued to serve the community for over 150 years. Now, therefore, I, Martin T. Tully, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim June 30th, 2013 to be Faith United Methodist Church Day in Downers Grove. And we'll be presenting this proclamation to members of the church as part of their celebration. Congratulations on 150 years. One last proclamation, and this is going out to the Garden Club of Downers Grove, and Ms. Carlquist will be is here to receive the proclamation after I read it. I'll be asking you to come up. Whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove is celebrating its 86th anniversary, and whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove was founded on February 28th, 1927, and Mrs. M.L. Puffer was elected president, and Mrs. Lyman was elected wildflower and conservation chairman. It was chairman back then, to be chairwoman today. Whereas the objectives of the club remain the same today as in 1927, that is the advancement of gardening, development of home grounds, and furthering village beautification to stimulate an interest in cooperative gardening and to aid in the protection of forest, wildflowers, and birds. And whereas over these years, the Garden Club has planted flowers, bulbs, trees, bushes at nearly every park and school in the village, as well as at the library, the Main Street Cemetery, and the Maple Grove Forest Preserve. And whereas the Garden Club of Downers Grove is a charter member of the Garden Clubs of Illinois and the National Garden Clubs. And whereas scholarship awards are given each year to horticulture students at the University of Illinois. Fine institution. Now, therefore, I, Martin T. Tully, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim the week of June 2nd through June 8th, 2013 as National Garden Week in the Village of Downers Grove, and congratulate the Garden Club of Downers Grove on their past 86 years of accomplishment and wish them much continued success. Ms. Carlquist? Is here? No? Not here. Well, then I will deliver this to her home personally. So congratulations to the Garden Club. And that brings us to the end of our proclamations. I thought she was waiting in the green room. That brings us to item 4 on our agenda tonight, public comments. This is the segment of the meeting in which we entertain questions and comments of a general nature with respect to matters not appearing on tonight's agenda. If there are any questions or comments of a general nature, the protocol is to come down to the podium, give us your name and address, and we would welcome hearing from you. Are there any questions or comments of a general nature with respect to items not appearing on tonight's agenda? Please, come on down, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Jim Smalley, 246 56th Street, Downers Grove, part of the Deer Creek Homeowners Association. A month ago, I stopped at the meeting following the flood of April 18th and kind of discussed and presented a letter with some issues and concerns of the homeowners and was looking for a response by the 24th of May. As of yet, I have not received any response from anybody here at the council or the Stormwater Committee, of which I presented the same letter to a couple days following the village meeting. Obviously, Deer Creek has been a problem area for a number of years, and these recent storms had neighbors on edge, wondering if they were going to get flooded again. We also went to the village of Westmont's storm meeting that was on the 22nd of May and presented them some of the same questions that we provided in the letter that we sent last month. We're waiting. We gave them the same 2 weeks to get back to us with some answers so that we can address the area that is south of Deer Creek, south of White Fawn, which is the berm and retention area that created probably a good part of the flooding in the area. I guess it's kind of disappointing because as a resident of Downers Grove, we would have liked to have some feedback so that we can get a feel for what needs to be done within the area so that we can address the concerns for everybody in the neighborhood. And you know, we're looking to get a common word back to the homeowners within the subdivision. So I've got another copy of the letter that we can drop off, and just would like to work with the village to try and find solutions because something needs to change. Deer Creek has had severe flooding in the subdivision over the last 30 years, at least the last 22 while I've been there. And you know, we need to find some solutions to minimize the impacts to the residents. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I know Manager Fielman will be more specific, but I do know that there has been a response on a broader level, and that is obviously Deer Creek was not the only portion of the village that experienced a significant amount of flooding during the extraordinary rain events back in April. The village has been collecting, I think we reported out on this previously, but it's probably worth doing it again if we have the timeline and whatnot, and I know Mr. Fieldman can update us on where we're at in that. But we're in the process of taking all the information, the experiences from every neighborhood, not just Deer Creek that had these experiences, and working them into a process that we're undertaking that is going to include neighborhood meetings, and also what we might be able to do in terms of adjustments to our current in-progress watershed improvement plan and stormwater improvement plan that has been underway for some time already, but obviously has a ways to go. And learning from these experiences, both from what we've found out from Deer Creek, which is why I think last time you were here, we encourage you to please give us more information, photographs, all the details we can get, because all of it's being taken into a database and being used to figure out, are we on the right path with respect to the current stormwater improvement projects that are part of the watershed improvement plan? Are there changes to the scope, size, or impact of those projects? Should there be funding adjustments as we go into the budgetary process, which will be coming up soon, so on and so forth. So I've now spoken at probably the 30,000 foot level. I'll let Mr. Fieldman perhaps bring it down to a more local level.
Just confirming, Mayor, that the Deer Creek subdivision is part of the study that is ongoing right now. Engineers have visited the area. We are reviewing not only our field notes, but the information that was submitted from this neighborhood, and they will be invited to the end of June meetings where we will review our findings and come up with some preliminary recommendations. So yes, work is underway, and yes, they will be included in the report and recommendations.
I appreciate that, but to the gentleman's point, if I can pick up a little bit, perhaps I know that we have this available. We've talked about it at the village council meetings. We've put it on the website, and we made the information available for people to come to. But the fact that, sir, that you had to ask the question probably means that there will probably be a better opportunity to push information back out to you and your neighbors so you can follow along with what's going on as part of this process. So for those who have made inquiries, such as our visitors, about what's going on, maybe in addition to making it available on a call basis for them, we can also push it out to them by email or whatnot, so that we don't leave the impression that there haven't been responses to individualized correspondence. Understanding, of course, that there's an awful lot of correspondence. I think there's more than 1,200 homes or families who responded to our survey about flood impacts. So there's a lot of people that we have to get back to, and almost necessarily have to do it on a broad, globalized basis. But with technology today, there's no reason why we couldn't send you an email periodically. Here's where we're at in the process. Save this date, look for this. I think that is something we could probably do as well. But thank you for coming here again tonight and sharing your comments with us. Any other questions or comments of a general nature? Yes, sir. Please come down.
Good evening. My name is Jim Crawford. I'm actually here as a representative of St. Mary's from the Parish Council and their Finance Committee. But it is ironic, I live in Deer Creek too. And I just want a quick couple of comments. We battled a couple of years ago about whether you were going to take ownership of the storm drains, Mr. Feldman, or not, that were built by the city or by the builder, but the builder didn't put them on a plat. And so they were a surprise, and we set cameras down there to try to clean it out. That might have been before your time. Does that ring a bell with you at all?
No, it does not.
Okay, there is an extensive amount of piping built into our neighborhood by the builder, I believe. I do not believe it's on any plat, so the city was surprised when we first called several years ago to say, hey, a willow tree was cracking one of these clay tile type pipes. I know somebody's come to look at it because you had to move a bunch of what do you call it, yard waste things, compost piles and stuff like that. So that may or may not help. But I will also add this, a significant amount of water that fed into St. Joseph Creek that then went into Barth Pond came from Westmont. So hopefully somebody's picking up the phone and calling Westmont as well, because it came off the golf course, broke the berm, came through then the neighborhoods on White Fawn, through 56th Street into the creek, and then compounded the problems that we obviously had with Barth Pond and the creek. So I just share that spontaneously. Didn't really come here to talk about that today. And then just in the spirit of proclamations, I actually attended the Mass where they read Sister Michael and Sister Lorraine's proclamations that you guys were so kind to share. They were read to over 700 parishioners, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. They had done over 30 years of service to our church, and to stand there and have Father Ernie read the proclamations to over 700 people in the church of education and the value to the neighborhood and coming from the city council, and specifically you, Mayor, it was cool and I appreciated it. And I didn't think of it until I heard the proclamations earlier, so I want to say thank you for that. But the real reason why I'm here, I was actually at the meeting with Mr. Newstant, and there were probably, over a dozen different churches represented at this meeting, and obviously the conversation was the storm utility fee, or as they like to call it, the tax, and their disappointment that the nonprofits were being brought along with it. And the ability for them to pay that. There was several Methodist, Presbyterian, and Lutheran churches, and obviously St. Mary's is who I represent. And we have about 600 signatures on petitions asking that evaluation kind of be redone about the role of the nonprofits. Now, I do get the irony. I'm standing here in a neighborhood that was flooded, and the stormwater is a definite issue that needs to be dealt with. And then I come up here and I stand you saying the nonprofits should be excluded or at least some way taken into consideration for the valuation of how the fees are assessed. And we actually discussed several ways that could be discussed, whether it's religious education, applying the credits across the board, other different ways to earn credits on the education of parishioners overall, but some type of dialogue along the lines of what is going on with the nonprofits, why are they included, and then is there some way that can help abate them for the different parishes. So I'm just simply here today representing those different churches, St. Mary's in particular, and I have several petitions here with about 600 signatures, and I'm sure there will be others coming, is what I'm told. That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Well, that was a lot. Let me go back to the beginning. Well, first of all, thank you for being here. And it took me a while, but I then remembered the issue in Deer Creek that you were talking about with that storm drain. I'd have to spend a little bit more time researching it to remember the details, but I do recall
Actually,
that.
you were involved.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
When you were a council member, and that was one of your...
That was probably about 10 years ago. That's why it took me a while
We
to...
discussed it at one of the fundraisers that one of those businesses that went out of business and now is a different restaurant in downtown. I wish I could forget their name. I wish I could have their name.
I do remember that. Clearly, a number of different faith-based organizations in town, as well as other not-for-profits, have asked questions and raised some objections to being included with the stormwater utility. It's something that anyone who wasn't previously paying into that fund is, of course, a little bit, would prefer not to be paying into it now, but the very nature of the beast is that it spreads the cost of stormwater maintenance and infrastructure over a broader payment base, overall making it more equitable, more logical, more accountable, and also more sustainable. There's no perfect solution to this. It was the belief of the majority of the council when this was adopted that this was a better way to go about funding stormwater infrastructure and maintenance in the future. Clearly, by the comments that preceded you, this is a very important issue, has been and will continue to be in our community. And then you add on top of that the Federal Clean Water Act requirements, which we're obligated to comply with and yet receive no funding for. It's something that we have to take very seriously. This was viewed to be a better way of paying for it. There were people on the other side that didn't like the fact that there was a smaller percentage of the community that was paying a much larger percentage of the cost of stormwater and also thought that was unfair. So there's certainly arguments that could be made from all different facets of the community, and I certainly understand two things. One, that anyone who wasn't previously paying as part of the fund source for stormwater infrastructure and maintenance would prefer not to be doing that going forward. I understand that, although I think that ultimately it's only equitable for those who generate stormwater to contribute in some degree consistent with how much they generate. Second, I also understand, I think we all understand, that obviously when it comes to any not-for-profit, money's always tight, and any additional cost or expense that you can avoid, you'd prefer to avoid it. I don't know if removing everyone from the utility is the answer, because at some point it would defeat the purpose. However, the other thing you mentioned is, are there ways, and I know Commissioner Neustadt has met and others have pointed out in meetings the village has held with a variety of different stakeholders, businesses, not-for-profits, and others. There are ways in which credits can be earned, in which the amount of the fee can be mitigated to some degree, perhaps not eliminated, but mitigated. And by all means, not only have we encouraged faith-based and other not-for-profits to take advantage of those educational opportunities and learn what they can do to mitigate the impact upon their organizations, but would encourage them to continue those conversations and learn from perhaps future sessions that we would have to educate how they can take full advantage of those opportunities, understanding that it's probably not going to disappear, but perhaps it might be blunted to some degree. I will point out also that when we began this conversation, I believe we specifically reached out to our faith-based organizations in town well in advance of the adoption of the stormwater utility so that we could have that conversation even before it happened. But I appreciate you coming here, and obviously this is still a new thing, and we continue to take in input as we go forward, and if there are adjustments that make sense and don't undermine the entire program, it's something we would be open to. I would want to start, though, with encouraging, once again, any not-for-profit to fully embrace and educate themselves on what the opportunities are to potentially mitigate the impact of the fees upon them and their organizations. So again, thank you for your comments, and thank you for sharing the signatures. If you haven't already provided them, I would ask that you please give them to Mr. Baker. If you already have them, thank you. Yeah. Terrific. Any other questions or comments of a general nature? Hearing none, that brings us to item 5 on our agenda, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. That brings us to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments from anyone in the audience with respect to any of the items on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council with respect to any of the items on the consent agenda? Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, just wanted to highlight the item about we're approving the budget for the Downtown Management Corporation. I know a couple of my colleagues have received some feedback from residents. I think it's important to note on this that this is something we do every year. The Downtown Management Corporation has its own board that it reviews these expenditures and make sure that they're appropriate and enhance the downtown. So I am in support of this and in support of the items on the consent agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, the consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to item 7, our active agenda. We have one item on our active agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance providing for issuance of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2013A? I'll leave it at that.
Mayor Tully, I move to adopt an ordinance providing for the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds of the Village of Downers Grove, DuPage County, Illinois, in one or more series of bonds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $16,350,000, and providing for the levy and collection of direct annual tax for the payment of the principal of and interest on said bonds as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Neustadt? Aye. Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Matter passes unanimously. That brings us to item 8 on our agenda, our first reading, or the workshop portion of our meeting, when we entertain for discussion and consideration items that may be voted upon in the future. We have 6 items tonight, and as is customary, I'll turn the presentation of those items over to Village Manager David Fieldman. Mr. Fieldman.
Thank you, Mayor Tully. The first 2 items are both related to traffic and parking ordinances. And here to present both items is our Public Works Director, Nan Newland.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have two items that were forwarded from the Transportation and Parking Commission tonight. The first is an ordinance to amend a section of the municipal code to no parking anytime along the north side of 61st Street between Blodgett Avenue and Grand Avenue. This is the general location of this. You'll see 59th Street on the north, 63rd Street on the south, and Fairmount School just to the west of this location. This item was brought forward by residents who live along this block of 61st Street, which is 21 feet wide with no curb and gutter. There's a gravel shoulder along the north side, and the south side has a paved shoulder that connects to the sidewalk. The street is close to Fairmount School, and parking is currently allowed on both sides of the street. Staff visited this location on several occasions, both in the morning and the afternoon school drop-off times, when parking is most prevalent, and observed vehicles improperly parked along the north side of the street because of the narrow width of the street, as well as along the south side where parking extends over the parkway and sometimes encroaches onto the sidewalk. Several options to address the problems at this location were discussed at the Transportation and Parking Commission, and the consensus was to restrict parking on the north side of the street between Blodgett and Grand. This will address the challenges of maintaining the grass parkways and the gravel shoulders, as well as safety concerns for pedestrians and motorists during Fairmount School pickup and drop-off times. This recommendation was discussed with representatives of the school as well as the adjacent residents who supported the recommendation. It was unanimously approved by the Transportation and Parking Commission on April 10th, 2013, and staff recommends approval of this change to the ordinance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions from the council? Commissioner Neustadt?
Thank you, Mayor. Anytime we do one of these parking changes or modifications near a school, I think it's important to have the schools buy in. And I know that the folks at Fairmount were brought into this discussion, which is good. I think also that having a little bit of enforcement and some presence from our traffic enforcement and community service officers will be helpful. All the schools are seemingly having more and more cars these days, and it gets very congested quickly. So any place that we can try to avoid cars and students walking together or in the general area of each other is a safety concern, and I appreciate these changes and look forward to approving them next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Rankin?
I live by a school, so I see how important it is to have these safety measures in place. And, you know, I just ask for us to look back after it's done to see if it's performing as we hope, because often people are distracted, the children are distracted, the parents are getting their kids in the car. So I think this is a great effort to improve the safety by the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Olson?
Yeah, so, I mean, I understand why they're doing this. My concern is always limiting parking, especially this near a school, and we have an improved gravel shoulder, improved in some extent with a gravel shoulder on that side. You know, understand if the school's supportive of it, absolutely happy to support it, but I do think we need to look to see how it's being enforced. We need to look to see if it's working for the parents, look to see if it's working for the residents in that area. I mean, my biggest concern on these items is, okay, we're going to put up a bunch of no parking signs, and then everyone's going to park there anyway because there's a gravel shoulder. And then if we take out the gravel shoulder, people are parked there anyway and ruin the grass because they're going to drive on the grass, because this is immediately in front of Fairmount School. So that's just my concern, especially on one of these items. But you know, for me, if the school is supportive of it, then I'll support it.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Next item, please.
The second item for traffic tonight is an ordinance prepared to amend a section of the municipal code concerning the addition of a 30-minute loading zone along the west side of the library alley east of 1050 Curtis Street. Let me switch over to that exhibit. This is the location here. You see the library. We've marked the location at the northeast corner of the library there. This is a zoomed-in spot. It's a notch in the building right next to the alley. A request was received from a downtown business owner for an additional loading zone next to the building at this location. The front door of this business faces the alley. It's really, I think, the only entrance to this business as well as another business there. And the nature of their business depends upon multiple daily loading operations. Without a defined loading area, patrons have been parking in the alley and disrupting the normal flow of traffic. The police department and the Downtown Management Corporation were consulted, and it was agreed that an additional loading zone at this location would best facilitate traffic and business needs. Staff investigated the proposed location and confirmed that there is room for one vehicle to park here temporarily as a loading zone without disrupting the traffic that is going southbound in the alley at this location. It would serve several nearby businesses, including the Dog Barkery and Posh Kids, which are just right next to this loading zone. Village staff will stripe the space if approved and fabricate and install the regulatory sign that will go along with it. Downtown Management Corporation supports this proposed 30-minute loading zone addition, and staff believes this would benefit all the adjacent business owners. The item was presented to the Transportation and Parking Commission, this was the exhibit here, on April 10th, 2013, and Commission voted unanimously to approve the action as presented. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? The proposed 30-minute loading zone. Questions or comments from members of the council? Commissioner Rankin.
I apologize for not asking this in advance. So this loading zone, is it not in front of Posh Kids?
It is. The proposed.
Okay. Mm-hmm. She can't hear me. She's telling me that. Larger. Okay, so that's in front of Posh Kids?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions or comments? We'll have to put the microphone on that side when you turn that way. That's probably the...
I need to speak in it.
It's not very omnidirectional.
No, we're going to get 10 microphones like the media.
The next four items come to us from the Plan Commission, and the first one is consideration of a special use to permit a physical training, physical therapy business on Brook Drive. And here to present the background information on this petition is our Community Development Director, Tom Daberreiner.
Good evening.
Oh, you beat me to it. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me start out by saying that the next four items are really, I think, good news items, because in every case we're talking about businesses that are either new to the village, relatively new to the village, or expanding in or near their current place of business. So this is all good news from our perspective. The first item is a special use ordinance that's been prepared for a sports training, physical training, or physical therapy use at 1422 Brook Drive. I'm going wrong way here. There is the approximate location, right by the push pin, top of the arrow, and we are looking for approval on at the June 11th active agenda. Core 1 is the name of the business, and the proposed use is permitted as a special use in the M2 district, which is what that blue color indicates. Here's an aerial just to further orient everyone. The property is part of a multi-tenant office and light industrial building located at the northwest corner of Brook Drive and Center Circle. Core 1 works with athletes and adults by appointment only, and the majority of the clients are junior high school or high school athletes looking to improve their sports performance or recover from injury. Perhaps a few of our prior guests were using the Core 1 facilities. As I mentioned, the Core 1 in this particular case, they are seeking to relocate to a 3,200 square foot spot from a 1,600 square foot spot in this same complex. So this is a case where they are expanding inside Downers Grove and inside the same location approximately. This is a picture from the outside. The comprehensive plan is supported in this move through its call for diversification of uses in light industrial and business parks. This certainly accomplishes that. The Plan Commission considered this their May 6th meeting, 2013, and voted unanimously in favor that it meets Section 28.1902 and the standards for approving a special use. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeBreiner. Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to the proposed expanded special use? Questions or comments from members of the council? Well, since it's a permitted special use and they're already there and they're just going to be more there than they are now, this is not a difficult one. Thank you.
The next item is for a property located at 960 75th Street. An ordinance has been prepared to permit a zoning ordinance map amendment to rezone the property at 960 75th from R1 single-family residence to B2 general retail business, excuse me, and we're looking for approval on the June 11th, 2013 active agenda. There is the approximate location of this property. The property is improved with an 11,000 square foot automobile repair facility and car wash, along with the parking that it is known as Pit Stop. The subject property was annexed into the village on January 1st, 2012 as part of the village-wide annexation program. There's an aerial of the site just for orientation purposes. Upon annexation, all properties are automatically zoned R1, single-family residential. In this particular case, the B2 classification we believe is more appropriate for this set of uses, and it's appropriate to rezone to this area. It's also very closely approximates the zoning classification that was in place when this was in DuPage County as an unincorporated property. Here is a photograph from almost a year ago now, looking across the reconstructing 75th Street at the property. So here really is just the summary of what we're talking about. I've already touched on a number of these items. There are no changes being proposed at this time for the site or the business. The future land use map has a Scrivener's error here, which has caused a little bit of confusion where it got colored yellow and it should have been colored red, as our intention was to keep the business use at this location. The Plan Commission met on May 6, 2013, and by a vote of 5-1, voted in favor of the rezoning, with the dissent concerned about that Scrivener's error and what it represented. But staff concurs with the majority, the 5, and finds that the 5 found that the standards were met regarding map amendments as found in 28.1702 of the Municipal Code. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeBreiner. Once again, any questions or comments from members of the audience with respect to the proposed rezoning of this parcel? Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Jose.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. I take seriously the comments in the dissent, but I think this is a situation where we're not looking at a change really in what's going on. We're basically lining it up with the business that's currently there. This isn't a situation where we've got commercial creep into a residential neighborhood, because the business is already there, and everything north of it on Main Street is remaining zoned R1. This is in keeping with sort of the commercial nature of 75th Street, and I think that all makes sense to make it B2. It's in line with what it was zoned at on the county level. So I think this all makes a lot of sense, and I'll be in support of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? I'll simply add that I think Commissioner Jose articulated the reasoning well as to why the proposed zoning makes sense.
There's two more rezonings. Then the next one is an ordinance has been prepared to allow a zoning ordinance map amendment to rezone the property at 4249 Highland Avenue from R4 single-family residence to B3 general services and highway business, and we're seeking approval of this item on the June 11th active agenda. Here is the location that we're talking about. If this map looks familiar, it's because we were talking about, the council was talking about this back in May for an approval related to, largely to the property that is outlined in red, with a portion of that property being remodeled for an automobile laundry, you'll recall. And then the blue area is the parking that's required to provide, to serve that use. So, I just lost my place here, I apologize. The property is currently a commercial parking lot, although it's zoned residential, and it's there to provide the required parking for the commercial occupants at 946 Ogden Avenue. And the petitioner is requesting a rezoning to more adequately align the existing parking lot use with the appropriate zoning classification. The proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which has a goal of increasing the depth of commercial property along Ogden Avenue, and that's a goal that was outlined in both the comprehensive plan and then going back a number of years in the Ogden Avenue master plan. That's a picture you may remember from last month as well. These improvements have already begun to the property on Ogden. Again, the related use was approved on May 21st last month for the Ogden Avenue property. This would seek to rezone the parking area to match the depth goal provided in our plans, and that was approved unanimously, or recommended unanimously on May 6th by the Plan Commission, again under Section 28.1702 for map amendments. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this proposed rezoning from any members of the audience? Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Newstat?
Just one comment on all four of these. All of these have had notice. They've received notice. There's been public availability for input and comment. I think out of the 4 or 5 that we're looking at tonight, I saw 4 public comments. They're taken very seriously. They're addressed and put into the Plan Commission in their minutes, so we do get to see what people say. In most cases, in these cases, I should say, these are all pretty straightforward zoning changes. So I just wanted to make sure everybody realized that this is going through our regular process of Plan Commission, public notice, and all that goes with that. So a special thanks to the Plan Commissioners for their hard work, and to staff for getting these items together for us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments? For my own part, this, for all intents and purposes, is something that is part of, we already directed, part of the special use that we have previously approved. So we sort of envisioned this last time. Enough said. Thank you. Next item, please.
All right, this is my last item this evening, and it's an ordinance that's been prepared to permit a zoning ordinance map amendment, again, to rezone the property at 2551 Warrenville Road from M1 Light Manufacturing to B3 General Services and Highway Business. And we're again seeking approval on the June 11th, 2013 active agenda. Here is the location we're talking about. It's a small property, so I did blow that up a little bit there. It's the property with the star on it, labeled M1. It is a 2-story animal hospital, and parking lot, and mobile MRI trailer, which are located here. The petitioner is the Arboretum View Animal Hospital, and they are requesting the zoning ordinance map amendment so that their property is consistent with surrounding zoning classifications and the desires of the comprehensive plan, as well as to facilitate a future business expansion, a building expansion, which will help better accommodate the MRI use inside of a garage. Here is an aerial of the site. If you look very closely, you can see where the trailer is sitting. It's a little hard to see in that case, but I've got better photographs, so stay tuned. The construction of the garage requires a B3 zoning designation to reduce the required front yard setback. And if you've been out to the site, you're going to say, Tom, that's a side yard. No, it's defined in our zoning ordinance as a front yard, and that's something that we need to play with quite a bit when we get into the Plan Commission realm and Zoning Board of Appeals sometimes. And in this case, it went to both bodies. So they require the B3 zoning, which reduces the front yard setback to 25 feet from what is 35 feet under the M1. Under the 25 feet, they are allowed a variation of 12.5 feet. And I'm going to show the plan here, kind of blow it up, just kind of give you a sense of what we're looking at. The blue building is the portion that exists, and the yellow is the additional garage. Okay, here's a photograph looking south from the parking lot, and you get a sense of the animal hospital and where that MRI trailer is sitting. It's not exactly proportional, but that's about where that garage would fit into the picture. And if we move that over a little bit, you get a sense of where that sits in relation to Cross Street. And there's a significant amount of right-of-way there, and trees and buffer. And that, again, is about where that garage would sit. So here's an elevation drawing with approximately the same view. So there were really 3 actions required to accomplish this, and this was something that we worked with the petitioner on so that they could accomplish it as quickly as possible and really try to maintain their MRI services for the animals. It began with the Plan Commission meeting on May 6th, who recommended in favor of the rezoning to B3. That's the item before you tonight. The ZBA met on May 22nd and recommended in favor of a front yard variation if the rezoning occurs. And then we're looking for the council approval tonight based on, again, a section that should say 28.1702 regarding map amendments. The Plan Commission recommended in favor. Staff concurs. Be happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you again, Mr. Dave Reiner. Any questions from the audience with respect to this item, rezoning of this parcel to B3? Questions or comments from the Village Council? I just want to thank staff for working with the petitioner on this project, because I got to know the business that's located there a little bit, and it's actually quite remarkable. In many ways, it's sort of the Mayo Clinic of veterinary hospitals in terms of the types of services and the animal patients that they see. It provides a lot of very high-tech, sophisticated health care, such as MRIs and whatnot, for a variety of different animals, and brings, for that reason, people from sometimes far away from Downers Grove to have their pets seen at this facility. And I know that the location of the MRI trailer was there in order to enhance those services, and they were struggling with how to expand their offerings and continue to raise the bar for veterinary service in this parcel that they were in, and had been talking with us about different options. And all the conversation seemed to lead to doing something like this. So I want to thank staff for working with the petitioner to what will hopefully be facilitation of an expanded facility, because it actually is quite a remarkable facility that is well known in this circle. And to the extent that, as you said, this is good news, an expansion of a successful business within our community, I'm glad to see that we're able to facilitate that success. So thank you for working with the petitioner in that regard. I understand there was a little creativity here, a little creativity there, but it's all a good thing. Thank you.
And that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 9 on our agenda, which is the Mayor's report. And I have one item on the agenda for that report, which is the appointment of certain members to certain boards and commissions. Before I ask our village clerk, April Holden, to read the resolution and for the council to vote on it, this is a privilege that we have from time to time to vote on the appointment of volunteers within our community to serve on boards and commissions. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of very talented, dedicated people in our community that want to serve on boards and commissions, more than we can possibly place. So I myself, and oftentimes working with the village council, will have to try to figure out who would be the best fit for what spot, and also try to allow as many people to participate as possible. We will be doing a number of these coming up in August because the terms will be coming to an end for a number of our volunteers, and we will be looking at appointments and reappointments. These are all vacancies that we're filling. Some have been vacant for some time because of our custom of not having any appointments within a certain period of any election. Now that that period is passed, it's time to fill some of these vacancies. I want to thank staff for assisting with some of the appointments. Commissioner Rankin participated in recommending one of the folks here. And one, actually, I had wanted to get appointed to the Environmental Concerns Commission for some time, but then she fell into the no-fly zone, so that we had to wait. So I, on behalf of myself and the rest of the council, want to thank all these folks for being willing to serve, because we greatly benefit from the input from our volunteer boards and commissions, most of which of the folks sitting up here right now have served on it at some point in time. So obviously that's very important. So with that introduction, and we'll be doing this again in a couple of months, and I will be, some of you have already been talking to, depending on what boards and commissions you're involved with, seeking your assistance and helping to identify good, diligent folks who want to volunteer and help better their community. With that, Ms. Holden, please, if you would read the resolution.
A resolution appointing members to village boards and commissions. Whereas Mayor Tully has made the following appointments to village boards and commissions, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Downers Grove does hereby confirm the following appointments. Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, appoint Thomas Bondi to a one-year term expiring August 31, 2014. Appoint Jean Marino as chair. Community Events Commission, appoint Tony Caceres to a one-year term expiring August 31, 2014. Environmental Concerns Commission, appoint Stacy Salmon to a three-year term expiring August 31, 2016.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve those appointments?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from members of the council? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Congratulations. The volunteers have been appointed, and we will be following up with them shortly. That ends my report and brings us to item 10, the manager's report. Mr. Fieldman.
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. That then brings us to item 11, attorney's report. Ms. Petrarca.
Thank you, Mayor. 6 items to present this evening, all of which will be on next week's agenda. The first is an ordinance restricting parking on 61st Street, an ordinance adding a loading zone to the alley east of 1050 Curtis Street, an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the village to rezone the property located at 4249 Highland Avenue, an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the village to rezone the property at 2551 Warrenville Road, and an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance to rezone the property located at 960 75th Street. And finally, an ordinance authorizing a special use to permit a sports/physical training and physical therapy facility at 1422 Brook Drive. That is all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That then brings us to item 12 on our agenda, councilmember reports and new business. First, are there any items of new business from any members of the village council? Hearing no items of new business, councilmember reports. We'll start with Commissioner Barnett tonight.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Thank you. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Commissioner Olson.
Just want to report that it was a successful 10K, the 5K, 10K committee fit at the YMCA on Sunday. It was a lot of fun. I ran it. The mayor was there. A number of folks in the community. So I was glad to see a lot of people out, and then got to come right back to O'Neill, and we paraded over with the volleyball team as they presented this trophy to South High School. So it was a great Sunday morning. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and thanks to you and Commissioner Jose for being able on a moment's notice to attend the trophy ceremony over at Downers Grove South. I was unfortunately unable to attend, as some of the rest of us were. Commissioner Newstead.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very proud to announce that my wife Leslie and I welcomed our second son, Declan Michael Newstead, to the Village of Downers Grove and this world on Thursday. Mr. Baker's pulling up some pictures as we speak. Declan and Mom Leslie and Big Brother David are all doing well. We are very, very appreciative and thankful that we have such a wonderful hospital right here in Downers Grove. As I was taking my oldest son, David, back home one evening, I said to him, and he's only 4, you know, we're so lucky to be so close to the hospital. And he didn't have any idea what I was talking about, but It really is great to have such a great institution right around the corner. Thank you for all the well wishes and support from our friends and family and others in the village. I really appreciate it. There's big brother David and Declan on the very first time he came home. So thank you everyone for all your well wishes and the extra time tonight, Mayor, to welcome Declan to Downers Grove.
By all means, congratulations to you and the entire Newstead family, and glad to hear that Leslie's doing well.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Commissioner Durkin.
Yeah, you know, you got to get that other picture, the one that shows that he's going to be an offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers. You got yourself one hell of a big boy.
He's a handsome lad, yeah.
I told you in a text you're going to have to get a second job to feed him. And my little girl, who's only 11 months, is eating me out of the house already. So if your son is anywhere near her capabilities at this age,
Well, I'm hoping he can hit the golf ball a really long way.
I'm sure he will. Trust me, I'm sure he will. Well, congratulations to you
Thank
guys.
you.
God bless you. That's great news. Actually, I was doing a little Google search here, and our boys volleyball team that we just celebrated tonight is actually the first state champions in the boys level at South. And what's interesting is that the girls have 6 titles on top of them. So there's a little catch-up work. So girl power all the way at South High. So again, congratulations. That was a great honor. And you know, I only got to participate in that once. That was at my previous life in Darien when we honored the 2001 football state champions. So I'm glad that we took that on, Mayor, and acknowledged our champions in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rankin.
I just wanted to invite everyone who hasn't already, you can still apply to be in the Downers Grove 4th of July Parade. Applications are on the village's website, and the deadline is June 13th. The Community Events Commission asked the marketing department to also send out invitations to all the people that lead block parties in our town to try to get a little more creative floats and a little more participation, a little change in the parade. So, you know, anyone can be in the parade. It doesn't cost anything. So just fill out your application, and we hope to see you.
So are you going to fill out the application for boys volleyball team?
Well, I think they should be the Grand Marshals, for sure.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Terrific. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jose.
I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. He's trying to get to that Blackhawks game.
0-0.
You surely must be guessing because you can't be watching the game while you're up here.
I'm watching this.
Yes, thank you. With that, I have one item, and that is there are, in fact, 15 days left until the begin of Downers Grove Rotary Fest 2013. We're looking forward to another wonderful street festival. Hopefully the biblical rains have passed us by, and we will have a wonderful street festival coming up soon. Looking forward to it. I know many of us will be there, either volunteering or participating. It gives you another opportunity for sort of a 3-day long coffee with the council. So come on down and enjoy the best of what Downers Grove has to offer. It is one of the reasons why we are, in fact, one of the 8th most friendliest towns in America, according to Forbes magazine. I have nothing further to report, so with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned. Good night.